David Smith, thank you so much for joining us and welcome. To begin with, I wanted to start with a simple question. What, in your mind, are the three most important things you want the participants to remember from your session today?
Well, I think the most important thing of all is that safety is a big issue. And I don't just mean safety, I mean occupational health and safety, because of the phenomenal costs on people who lose their lives or get injured at work. But there's a greater effect than that. There's an impact on their colleagues, their family, grandparents, children, whatever parents. So it's an enormous toll that we pay, and it's not acceptable. And it seems to be neglected. Unlike other areas of business, it hasn't become a focal point or the focus of integrating into business thinking. And I would like people to take away the fact that health and safety is a risk that should be managed like any other risk, but very, very much at the top of the heap and integrated within the business processes of all organisations to be effective. The other thing that I think is very, very important is that we should not forget that it's not just safety. People recognise safety issues like tripping or slipping or falling, and they are very big issues and shouldn't be forgotten. But out of the 2.3 million deaths every year arising from work activities, 2 million are from health issues. And that means occupational diseases, cancer. All these things build up to a long-term misery aspect. It's not just an acute shock that death or injury brings, but we're talking about long-term suffering. And I would like people and organisations to recognise that health is a big cost to the organisation. People being ill off work for a long, long time, or suffering when they leave work, and the cost and compensation of that, apart from the misery again, which is obviously the big issue. So there's a big cost to the organisation, the state, the hospital services through health issues. And the third thing of all is that you're not going to get it to work unless we recognise that the workers, the workforce themselves, need to be heavily involved in the actual management of health and safety. They have a key role to play. All workers, all levels, but those who work at the very sharp end and have to do the jobs like operating machines, working close to high risks, they're the ones who know what the hazards are. They're the ones that can see ways of doing things better. So one of the key things that ISO 45001 will bring is the fact that it is absolutely essential that an organisation forms relationships with its very key, strong relationships, and ensures that participation and consultation is a very key part of their management system. So I think those are the three things that I would like to see anybody take away from my message today. Yes.
Thank you for that. And the technical committee working on the ISO 5001 is a very diverse group of representatives from all the different countries. How do you see sort of the global attitude, corporate attitude towards safety is changing?
I think that's very much changed. It is changing. I think society is recognising exploitation. It does not like to see that companies operate overseas and exploit workers and let them work in conditions that wouldn't be acceptable at home. I think investors are making an issue over this, and the way we measure performance of a company and the various standards and reporting systems we have is becoming an issue, that exploiting labour and not taking health and safety matters into consideration is becoming a big corporate issue. We need to recognise, though, I mean, some 95% of organisations are small to medium enterprises, and the definition of what that is varies from country to country, but say 250. majority of 95% of the world's organisations will fall into that category. The other few percent are large organisations, and they employ maybe 65% of the people. But I believe that they can set this a tone. That if they adopt good practices, and then will only deal with organisations that adopt similar practices, then it's a win-win situation, because the evidence is strong that the smaller organisations are the ones that manage safety and health issues far more poorly than the big organisations. But the big organisations can play their role, and it's a vital role in encouraging and maybe taking the smaller organisations and training their employees as contractors to work more safely, not just exploit them. I think in the past the tendency has been to say, this is a hazardous or dirty job, we'll give some subcontractor this job, and say that's the end of my responsibility. I think that is beginning to change from an environmental point, health and safety point of view, and I'm hoping that is the case. So I think that hopefully with government and big organisations becoming more globally responsible, following major incidents where they have failed, it means that we can cascade it down to the smaller organisations they relate to and use to subcontract to. And by doing that, all organisations have to benefit. And you look at ISO 9000, the quality standard, there's 1.3 million people, organisations certified to that, 350,000 or so with environment. I don't know how many will be certified to 45,001, but if most of those who've got 45,000, and there's certainly more who will go forward for the ISO standard, that should be a few 100,000 in a few years' time. And that would mean that we are hitting that 2.3 million and hopefully making some impact in a few years' time. Yes.
How suitable, how aligned 45,001 is for the small and medium enterprise, given it's such a huge portion?
Yes. We tried when we've been writing it to make sure that this was practicable for them. It's an issue that I've raised several times, to make sure that people recognise that when we write it, hopefully it would work for sort of a 20-man organisation, and which has a bit of structure, and people have to have some delegated responsibilities. So the model then can be cascaded down to, say, 5 or 10 people. But equally, large organisations are a series of subunits, departments, facilities, whatever they are, with 20, 50 people. And so it can be escalated upwards. So I think there's no reason, I hope, when we finish, that small organisations will take it on board, or smaller. The evidence from a survey done on LinkedIn by a guy called Chris Ward is that the predominant people taking interest in the development are SMEs, which is quite encouraging, I think, yes. So we have to make sure that the requirements are not too high that they don't join. We could make it so it's very high, the bar, then very few would. It's better to start there and move the barrier up in 5 years' time of expectations, but that's another challenge, yes.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, David. And just, I guess, to end on a lighter note, what advice would you give to a young person thinking of moving into the safety space, starting their career in safety?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think it's partly about your personality and your culture and whether you care about people. I think you need to look at situations and take the big picture on board. The way I work, and our inspectorate came to me and said, how do you think? What makes you work? And I say, well, I walk into a room like this and I look round and I think, what are the issues? How safe, how can I change the light bulb up there? What is that cable doing over there? What is the litter on the floor over there? And you just look at that and think, is that man all right over there? I look at the situation and I'm thinking, and ask simple questions. Is that all right? Could that be better? Can I help people? Can I make people's life easier to do a job they're doing more safely and more comfortably? Because that will mean that he has a better life, the organisation benefits, and I feel more comfortable working around people who are working safely.
And you did mention something very interesting during your presentation today, is that a lot of the health and safety issues are associated with stress, bullying, with psychological issues.
Yes.
How important is it for a young person moving into sort of the safety space, not just have the engineering and safety experience, but also...
Yeah, I think the issue is that there's a failure, or has been a failure, probably in training and people who do the assessments and things, focusing on the safety issues. I think people need to get some training and appreciation of the occupational health and hygiene issues and the stress things. What tends to happen with most of those is that they are dealt with when the problems occurred, when people have got a bad chest, or people are exploited or feel bullied and they feel stressed and can't work, or they do desperate things, and it's too late then. So managers, need to be focused on looking at the little things, or which may seem to be little, and recognising them. And a young person moving into this area needs to have that wider appreciation, not just think about the physical things, but the noise, the smell, the vibration, the workspace. I mean, look at a call centre. Everybody just talking on the phone all day. Is that space? How do they feel hemmed in? Are they like hamsters on a wheel? So it's little things. What is the lighting like? What is the air extraction like? Are they comfortable? Do they have breaks? Do they have tea? Do they have coffee? So it's taking a very big picture, looking at the whole workspace and thinking how people are happy in their environment, and checking it out and being part of that. So training people is probably, in that area, is probably going to be something that we're going to need to dominate on in the future, and hasn't been typically the thing we've done in the past. It's been very safety focused because that's easier to see. Yeah.
And I guess the last thing that I usually ask during those interviews, what's your favourite book in the safety or risk management?
Well, there you are. That's a book. I mean, a book that our party contributed to was a very wide-ranging book called The Risk Universe, which, not because I wrote a little bit in it, but it gave so many perspectives about risk. It gave me a wider view, and I quite like that book because a number of authors came together and put things together, and I thought that was quite a useful thing. As far as safety, in some ways, the way the UK have written a sort of little book, the Health and Safety Agency, on successful elements for health and safety, I quite like the way they've gone forward, and I find it's not perfect by any means, but the way they've embraced the new thinking, which is very much in line with 45,001 thinking, and on a plan, do, check, act, risk basis, I'm quite pleased with that. So I can see that's another thing that I quite relate to, yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.